I dream for all of us to own wardrobes with garments made from sustainable sources, including fair wages for the makers. I aim to motivate and inspire viewers to see the clothes they wear as an expression of their personality and their beliefs. This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Hello, welcome to a new episode of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a one-woman band ably assisted by a freelance pattern cutter. Her name is Andrea. She makes most of the Layercake garments that I sell on my website, and she also helps me whenever she can on the stand at shows. But she's actually an independent designer in her own right and has her own little business separate from the Slow Wardrobe. So other than her help for Layercake and at shows, I'm doing things on my own by myself. The Wardrobe is a much smaller company that a lot of people know. I apparently do a good job at making it all look big, but it's tiny. So that as a little bit of an introduction, you can find me either as the Slow Wardrobe or as Tall Yarns, which used to be the name of the company, on social media. And if you type in Tall Yarns on Google, you'll still go to the Slow Wardrobe website. I've still got both names pointing at in the same direction. But the reason for the Slow Wardrobe name, for those of you who don't know it, is that a lot of customers got more and more confused as the Layercake range of linen and wool garments, crafty workwear, or however you want to call it, kept growing, and a lot of new people thought that tall yarns also meant that whatever I made was for tall people. Even though I'm the tall one on the stand and Andrea's 5'2", head to toe in Layercake, they would get stopped by the name. And of course, I'm also not just selling yarns anymore. I sell a lot of other things. So the idea of getting a name that was more encompassing started to brew, and I settled on the Slow Wardrobe because it really underwrites and underpins everything I'm trying to do with the business. The idea of buying less clothes of better quality and treating those clothes as part of you, and mending them and caring for them, embellishing them possibly as they get older, is an ethos that I really like. It also, either consciously or unconsciously, diminishes your environmental footprint, which is another thing that I'm really in favor of. Layercake is made almost all by Andrea right here in the studio, and the yarns that I sell are dyed by a number of guest dyers, although at the moment the only guest dyer who is still dyeing yarns for me is Sharon from 5 Moons Yarns. And the yarns of Sharon are for sale on the Slow Wardrobe website as well. Rather than a standalone website, Sharon has moved her yarns over to the Slow Wardrobe website, and at shows, wherever we can, you'll either find us side by side or in one big combined stand. We were trying to get a big combined stand for Yarndale because that works a treat. But they've given us 2 stands side by side. So if you are coming to Yarndale at the end of September, do come and see us. We are, if you have the main entrance of Yarndale, we're kind of diagonally on the other side of the hall against the back wall. And we have 2 double stands next to each other. So we are long and wide. Come and give us a look in. So all the way back to today's show. a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to give you an update on the projects that I've been knitting, that I've been working on, both selfish knitting as well as business knitting, if you like. And there'll be another update on Layercake as well. I hope you'll enjoy the show. Here we go. I've already shown a number of you in the social media the progress on a very selfish knitting project that I started when I went on holiday at the end of August with my family for a week and a half. It was a very, very easy knit, but extremely enjoyable. And you're looking at it, it's just over my shoulder here. It's a jumper called Theodora. It was not designed by me, but by Jackie Bogg, who is a very creative, obviously, knitwear designer. And it's knitted in her own hand-dyed yarns. Her yarns are called hot butter yarns, and this jumper was knitted from a kit that she was offering for sale at Woolfest, where I was exhibiting. And we were doing very well at Woolfest, so we were busy. I didn't have much of a chance to walk around, but on one of the two occasions that I had to quickly run around the show, I was stopped dead in my tracks when I saw this jumper displayed at the front of Jackie's stand. Stepped onto the stand and say, "Can I have one of those kits, please?" Jackie had, very understandably, already sold out of both the patterns and the kits, but she took my details, and about a month later, a kit appeared on my doorstep. I hadn't started working on it yet. I'd just been fiddling with the little balls, because this kit comes with a number of, I think it's 300 grams of the neutral undyed yarn, which is a grayish brownish tint of yarn. It's beautiful. And then 12 little 25-gram balls of 12 different colors that all go beautifully together. And the jumper is knitted in stripes that change in width as you knit. It's bottom up. It's got a lot of positive ease, so it's quite boxy and wide. And the reason it stopped me dead in my tracks was that the colors I immediately recognized go beautifully with the checked linen that some of my Layercake garments are made in. I'll move my chairs to show you the baggies a little bit better that are worn with the jumper here in the picture. So if I hold up the baggies, you'll see all the different colors in the baggies, and then very similar tones in the colors in the jumper. And I thought, oh my God, it'll go beautifully together. Won't it be a fantastic jumper to wear in autumn? So like I said, it's got a lot of positive ease. There are I think 5 or 6 different sizes to the jumper. If you knit one of the biggest sizes, this is the second to biggest size, because I wanted the proportions to be right for me to be wide and boxy as it is supposed to be, but also taking my height in consideration. So I didn't want to lose the proportions and make the jumper look too skimpy on me. So I went for a big size, which gives me a little bit of extra length as well, of course. And if you knit one of the bigger sizes, you need an extension to the kit, because the standard kit covers, I think, the first 3 or 4 sizes, but for the bigger sizes, do get that extension. I'm thrilled that it is finished in time to take it to Yarndale, which I'll proudly be able to show it off to Jackie, and you'll definitely find me at some point raiding her stash of little 25-gram balls, because I want to do a lot more in that yarn. It's lovely to knit with. So bit of a plug, I've got nothing to gain from this. I paid for the kit. I'm going to pay for my mini balls. It's just enthusiasm. I love the jumper and I love the hot butter yarns. So thank you, Jackie, for that. That was kit project number 1, finished project, and a project that has really overtaken my knitting just for my holiday weeks. I decided that with some encouragement from Sharon from Five Moons Yarns, because I said, do you think I should knit for the business? Because I'd love to knit something in one of the new linen gradients that I have so I can show a sample to people at Yarndale. And she said, are you kidding? Your holiday's the one time a year that you should at least allow yourself to do some selfish knitting. So yeah, go for the selfish knit, which I did, and here it is. So at the moment, we are enjoying very high temperatures. I think it's going to be up to 23 degrees again this weekend. So it's not like I'm going to wear it immediately, but it'll be ready for me when the temperatures go down. So that's the first one and a finished object. Second one I have to show you is about high time. I don't know how many months ago I told you already about this, and it was a bit of a guilt trip at the time. If you remember, I was telling you that at a previous Yarndale, I got Andrea to buy some yarn for herself, a sock yarn that I promised her I would knit her a pair of socks out of. And I was halfway through sock 2, lost my steam, got distracted and started knitting other things. May have been for a show. The bottom line was though that the project got forgotten and I was starting to feel very self-conscious over the fact that it had taken me ages. So today I can finally report that the socks are finished. I've put them on improvised sock blockers that I'll talk about, or one of them anyway, that I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. Here's one of them. It is knitted in a Five Moons sock yarn in a beautiful variegated pink and red and orange shade, and then the contrast heel, toe and cuff are knitted in Trinity Twist, which is a sport weight yarn, so it's slightly thicker, making it extra hard wearing. The idea behind these was that they can go in walking boots and walking shoes and be very hard wearing and nice and warm for the winter. That's why they're so long as well. As you can see, it's kind of crumpled on the sock blocker because the sock itself is quite long. That's specifically what Andrea asked for, so that's what I've done. I hope she's going to love them. I haven't given them to her yet because I wanted to show them here first. Now the sock blocker that it's on is a sock blocker that is custom made or handmade, improvised really, out of a wire hanger. That's the wire hanger. The way the wire hanger used to look, this would have been the top. This would have been one outside corner and that the other outside corner, so pulled out. And then this would have been the flat bottom. I will put in a picture here to show you how the wire hanger is made. So you see the wire hanger at number 1 in its original form. Then the first action you take is you hold it by its handle and pull the middle bottom out into, well, almost really a diamond shape. Then holding one of the edges about 4 inches away from the top of the hanger where the hook is, you bend that in to almost 90 degrees and you take one of the sharp, what used to be sharp corners, one of the sides of the diamond, and push that in towards the opposite. So you really turn that corner inside out almost like by bending it. Then you create a foot shape at the bottom, and there you have it, a makeshift sock blocker. So if we go back to what I'm holding up, that was the bottom middle. This is that second point where you grab it and start bending it inwards. That is the opposite side that you push in. And the result is, of course, it's not the best sock blocker in the world, but it's very effective and it's really fast because it is completely hollow. So you can use the hook to hang your socks on a radiator, for example. I've got a whole bunch of them for really nice socks that can't go in the washing machine at home. So when I hand wash them, I put the socks, wet and all, on here after squeezing them out. And I have a whole row of these hanging on either a radiator or bathroom radiator, for example, is very effective in the winter. When they're on, then the socks dry extremely fast. And of course, in summer, you can just hang them outside. So it's a great cheap alternative to the fancy sock blockers, not to take that are for sale, not to take away from those at all. Those are fantastic. But for drying socks at home, for example, or like I do, displaying them at shows, these are fantastic. Can't recommend them highly enough. And isn't it a great way to reuse those horrible, ugly metal hangers that you get, I think, at the dry cleaners, for example? So sock blocker to make at home, and hopefully a way for you to reuse your hangers. Next project. Oh, here's another one that I finished. I think I showed this as a work in progress as well before. I'll put it on my makeshift sock blocker. It is another rag sock. Well, it's a pair of rag socks that I knitted out of a raggia yarn. It's one of those chunky yarns. I'll look up the name and put it down here. I knitted these for one of my teenage sons when I showed him the ones that I made for myself, which I made out of the yarn that I bought at Midwinter Yarn. So I put a picture of the ones that I made for myself here. And then I had a couple of balls of this yarn, which I think was being discontinued at the time. I don't actually know whether it's still current, but I bought a couple of balls of colors that I really liked. And this is, I think I've said that before as well, it's fantastic for knitting when you're watching TV and you want to knit completely blind, in my case, in the dark. Then you don't have to look at your knitting when your needles are a little bit bigger and your stitches are bigger, and you can just zoom around and knit pretty much half a sock in an evening easily, if not more. So ready for one of the boys to start wearing. He wanted to wear them yesterday evening, and I grabbed them. I said, no, not yet. I need to film this first. So here we are. He can have them tonight. Then the rest that I have to show you are works in progress. Okay, I'll start. This is not actually a work in progress yet. This is just the first start of an idea that I had, completely inspired by the jumper that I knitted. This idea of doing two stripes or two rows in a base color and then work with different colored yarns. And there is a make-along, a Muka make-along starting just now. I think yesterday or today it kicked off a big knit-along using Muka yarns. And just yesterday I received an order from Japan for some of the Muka Elena that I have that Sharon dyed for me. And I was looking at those yarns and I thought, ooh, wouldn't they look fantastic when blended with the undyed version, just the way they get blended here. So the dyed yarn, when wound in a ball, looks like this. And again, it's a set of colors that goes beautifully with the checked Layercake fabric. So it's got different greens in it, but then also this gorgeous pinkish raspberry, and in places going to a beautiful dark red. And then chartreuse is in there as well. It's stunning. So I took one of the little hanks home yesterday evening and knitted a sample that shows some of the Muka Elena in brown, and I've got a huge order of Muka Elena on its way to me right now. I ordered it last week, so it should be with me hopefully by the end of this week. And it has the undyed Muka Elena in it, which looks like this, and the grey Elena, which looks like this. If I show the yarns next to each other, that's the Sharon dyed and that's the grey Elena. And this is what it looks like when you blend it with the grey Elena, which I think is just magical. I absolutely adore it. Those flashes of colour speak in a very different way from when you see the coloured yarn knitted up just by itself. So that top section of that swatch is just the coloured yarn. And then from here on down, it's the coloured yarn blended, or 2 rows each, with the grey Elena. So lots of inspiration, and I'm working on a new design for a garment using these two together. I'm going to ask Sharon to do a different version of a multicolor as well. So I've got 2 different colorways, this one and one other. And I will report back in a future podcast once I have kits of those available. For now, I just have the cream colored. By the end of this week, I'll have a new shipment of the grey colored, and I've got a little bit left of this, with more coming through in a couple of weeks once I've asked Sharon to dye some more for me. So an example of how knitting somebody else's design and using somebody else's yarns can be such an inspiration. I'm seeing stripes everywhere now, wanting to knit stripes all the time. So it's a proper infection. So look out for stripes coming through from me. Now, that's not the only thing I've been working on. I still have 2 works in progress that I've shown you already before, but I've made a bit of progress, so I'll show them to you again. The first one is one of those gorgeous designs by Junko Okamoto. It is the Astrid pullover. And I'm going to try and hold it so that you get a decent idea of what it looks like and how far I am with it. This is what I've got so far. Here's the top, the neck section. Then you can see where I've split up for the armholes, and I'm kind of halfway down the body at the moment. And you get a much better impression now of how the colors work together. And that very bright color that I've used, which is a color called Calamansi, which was dyed for me on my Alpaca Boo yarn by Heather, the dyer of Sparkle Duck yarns, who very sadly passed away. And I'm cherishing the yarns that I have left that were dyed by her. This is Calamansi in a little ball. As you can see, it's a very, very bright, it's almost like highlighter yellow color. And worked into a knit like this, it just gives these tiny little pops because of where I've put it. And I'm thrilled with how this is all knitting up. The body, the main color, is one of the Biche et Bûche Le Petit Lambswool colors in the, I think it's called the something grey. I'll look it up and put it down here. And then I've combined that with some of my own Alpaca Boo yarns, which are slightly finer, but it's working out beautiful in the color work. 4 different colors to do the color work in. My progress is quite slow. I went through a bit of a dip with the color work and not really enjoying it very much, but coming back to it, and I'm enjoying it again. I think it also helps that I'm a little bit further along with it, so I can actually see the progress that I'm making, and I'm starting to imagine wearing the jumper, and boy, is that for me, is that a major encouragement to keep going. Also, if I remember correctly, I think the sleeves don't have the color work in them. They have lots of texture and interesting stitches, but I don't think there's any color work in there. So I need to get my skates on and get knitting, and then this gorgeous Theodora jumper will have some competition this autumn as to what I grab to wear. So I'll keep you posted on the progress of this one, which should start speeding up now that Theodora is out of the way and I've found my mojo back with my colorwork knitting. Then talk about lack of mojo. Next one is serious lack of mojo. The little project, I've shown you this before as well. Another embarrassment really that it isn't finished yet, especially because I'm so far with it. Beautiful little scarf in one of the sets of Layercake linen yarn. Hold it up. This is the multi-set. It's got 6 different colors in it, and I'm only realizing now that actually, of course, this is also stripes. So I had stripes on the brain before I even bought the Theodora kit. Maybe that's why I chose the Theodora kit, I don't know. Anyway, this project is nearly finished. I really need to do the last little bit of it, and then I can publish the pattern, which is going to be great because it's then specifically a pattern written for that little kit. Interesting stitches and nearly done. So hopefully by next time. Can you tell that I make these promises here on the podcast, hoping that it will actually force me morally to then do something about it and finish them? Let's hope it works. Either that or it's just complete embarrassment. Now, before I move on to other things, I was talking about those new linen gradients. So I'm going to show you one, and it's not knitted up because I chose to knit this on my holiday. But it's one that, oh man, I just can't wait to do something with it. I can't wait to be knitting it. I don't know why I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I need to go home and knit day and night. Remember the color that, the linen color that I can't stop talking about called moth? Obsessed or what? Well, moth, believe it or not, here's a picture of moth the fabric. And that fabric is created by weaving the green that was in all 5 of our new colors, new Layercake colors this summer, which is this green, this beautiful apple green, and weaving it together with a lavender color, which is this one. I still can't get over the fact that these 2 colors together make moth. And just like I've done with my other linen cross weaves, I've asked the factory that weaves the fabric for me to create a gradient, a 3-ply gradient of the 2 colors going from the purple gradually to the green. So that knitted up and then held next to the fabric. Man, I can't wait. I'm so excited about it. It's also high time, I think, that I come up with another nice little project to do that with. Don't you think? Yay! Okay, so I promise, I'll do a new design because we've got the Jagger, we've got the Fairly, we need something else. So I'll do a new design. I'll do something interesting with either stitches or shape, probably shape, because I like the idea that you really can see the gradation of the colors across these projects, and having the repeating gradient in Fairly and then the blocks of colors in Jagger. I need something else, maybe something concentric. If you have any very exciting ideas about this, then let me know and I'll work on it. Otherwise, watch this space. So, last but not least, I've already shown before the gorgeous cowl that I've got knitted up here as a sample by the wonderful Leona, one of my sample knitters. And the reason I'm showing again here, this was knitted in the Yak Blend 2. And the reason I'm showing it here is because I ordered these a while ago and I completely forgot about them. Do you know the wrist rulers, leather wrist rulers that I have? They did, I think as a limited edition, narrow ones. They're half the width, or maybe even less than half the width, of a regular wrist ruler. They only have inches on them, no centimeters. And I only have them in this natural color. And I've used it here as a little shawl clasp, as a little shawl keep on the cowl to show you that it's a very effective way to use a wrist ruler like that, not just the narrow ones, but any of them. So if you have a loose shawl that you put around your neck, you can hold it in place with one of these or one of the regular ones. The big difference between the regular ones, which close with like a button almost, these close with a little magnetic clasp. Look. They go like that. They're really, really nice. It's just a little magnet. They work extremely well. And just like the, oh, let me show you a black one because you can only see natural now behind me as well as, so here's a black one. So you put it around your wrist twice. And what I find is because they're narrower, you might be able to go a size down. I normally wear the 17-inch, which works fine. But in these narrow ones, I prefer the 16-inch. Look, this is a 16-inch, and that already goes onto my hand just a little bit. So because they're narrower, they come down slightly further. So do be aware of that. You may be able to go down a size. And I think they look great. I forgot the one that I'm normally, or that I have been wearing at home, because what I wanted to show you is having it kind of mixed in with my other bracelets, and then it doesn't dominate as much. It looks very different because in terms of width, it kind of fits in with the silver. So they're slightly more expensive. They're £22 rather than 20. I only have them in the natural, in the black color, and I only have a handful of them because I didn't know how people were going to like them, and then I completely forgot about them. So apologies for that. But on the upside, if you know of somebody who likes these, and you may want to get one either for yourself or as an early Christmas present, I'm going to take them to Yarndale with me. So if you want one, be quick because they'll go very fast. I have literally a handful of them. So wrist rulers. I still have plenty of the normal ones. Still have some of the purple ones left that were a limited edition specifically for me. I still have some red, but I also have the normal natural colors still. So keep in mind for autumn, you can wear them as a bracelet, but also hold a shawl together with them very effectively. I think that's about it for knitting at the moment. I don't think I have forgotten any whips. I think I actually have. I think I have another pair of socks tucked away at home that I was knitting for my husband. And next time I'll show those, and I'll show you why they were tucked away, because they're another example of a project that, to me anyway, is really difficult to keep a head of steam about, so to keep going with it. I kind of lose my mojo with it, and I'll explain next time why. But for now, this is it for knitting. Let me know if you have any great ideas for the linen gradient. And here we go with Layercake. In today's episode, the Layercake dress is the star of the show. I'm wearing the long dress in the small check linen over the top of a pair of long baggies that are also in the small check linen. The armholes of the dress are not cut out as low as on the other Layercake garments, so that it's easier in the summer to wear the dress without a vest underneath. Here is Rippled Sand, a shawl designed by Isabel Kramer, another wonderful sample knit by Leona, one of my sample knitters. It is made using Yak Blend 2 held together with a strand of soliloquy. Those two together make for a yarn that is unbearable to decay in weight. It makes for a beautiful, heavy, drapey, large shawl. And that stretchy extra fabric gives you more to play with, so different ways of wearing it. I'm going to be showing you a couple of different ways of tying it around you here in this next section. But in the meantime, I can tell you a little bit more about the yarn and the colors. So like I said, it is one strand of soliloquy in the color Sour Apple, which is very similar to the green color, almost identical to the green color that runs through all 5 of our new linen fabric colors. And then that's held together with either Twilight, which is an almost lilac-y bluey purple, or held together with Mare, which is the color that those 3 tassels are in. And the resulting mixed color that you then get is very similar to Peacock, the linen fabric Peacock, and Moth. So, not surprisingly, the shawl goes together beautifully with all of those new linen colors. Here I'm showing it just wrapped around my neck twice, lovely and snuggly, and a really nice way to show off the little tassels in the front. The yarn is either available separate by the hank or as a kit for this particular shawl. It's a pricey kit because the shawl weighs close to 400 grams in total. Now, showing it up close, you can see how those colors mix together. The Sour Apple, that green base color, is running throughout, held together in alternating stripes with Mare and Twilight. The yarns are available both separately and as a kit on the website. Next is to show you some jumpers and cardigans in combination with a dress. I really like the proportions that this creates. This is the new jumper that I showed you before, the Theodora, that I very recently knitted on holiday. Boxy jumper, nice and wide. That little heart on the back, it's something that I just added extra because I thought it looked so cute. It's not part of the original pattern. It's a really nice silhouette for winter time. If that's a little bit too warm, then here is an example of a Gramps Revive in a relatively small size. This is the size that was knitted for me by Megan as a sample to have on the stand. But it shows that you don't have to wear it terribly oversized to create a smaller cardigan out of it. Meanwhile, I've taken off the baggies and showing the silhouette of the dress just with some high shoes. Showing you there that I've just got some long socks underneath. No tights or anything, because of course it's not that cold yet. But it shows you that you don't actually need any tights. Just some low booties and nice socks works perfectly well. Now I've changed the dress from the small check linen to a more neutral in the pinstripe linen. Again shown with the Gramps Revive, and it makes for a calmer palette altogether. Jazzing it up a little bit by adding the baggies back in, and that ties together the red colors that are in the cardigan together with the warmer colors that are in the baggies. And you can see that just by adding that pop of color at the bottom, it makes for a really interesting mix. Bringing more color back in, but keeping with the dress in the pinstripe, I've now added a smock in the small check as well, so bringing more color in and more patterns. You can see that I'm wearing a patterned t-shirt as well, but altogether they just look great. Calming it down a little bit if you like color but you don't want it quite as busy. This is the brick tabard worn over the top of the pinstripe dress and the baggies. And if you're not so sure about what colors to bring in, if you want to bring in more colors, then keep using the different colors of the small check linen as a guide. Here is the rippled sands again, which of course is done in colors that are represented in the baggies as well. And ta-da! Here it is, new for autumn. The wool, our signature large check, beautiful Scottish wool that we use in wintertime, autumn and wintertime for the play suit. We now also use the same fabric for the dresses, and it is gorgeous. It's got such a beautiful drape, and to wear a garment that is not close at the bottom feels very different. Of course, you can combine this as well with different linen layer cakes over the top. This is the color moss, the slightly more muted green that we have. And here is the brick, both worn in combination with the wool dress. If that's a little bit too warm, then go for a mini tabard here in the pinstripe. As you can see, just like with the linen, all these colors go together beautifully, and you are in charge of whether you turn it up in terms of color or tone it down. And just before we finish here, I wanted to give a little bit of a show to one of the garments that we don't show enough, and it's partially because it's more suitable for autumn and winter than for summer. Our little felted jacket. Here I'm wearing it with the pinstripe dress, and rather than buttoning it up completely, I've just used the outside button and buttonhole, which create a slightly different silhouette. So you can open it up a little bit like that, or you go for the original two buttons and button it up completely like the little shrug it is intended to be. As you saw before with the wool dress, that's a really nice combination, making it colorful. But if you like the monochrome look, I should call it, better, then wear it with a pinstripe or maybe charcoal dress as shown. Then this last bit is to show the difference again, to remind you between the two lengths of dress. I'm wearing a charcoal dress, which is another new color that we're bringing in this autumn for the dresses, the charcoal crossweave over the top of the wool dress, to show the difference in length between the regular length dress and the long length. There's a 4-inch difference in length. If you are 5'5" or below, then I recommend you stick with the shorter dress length. If you are 5'5" or above, then you can wear either dress length depending on your preference. Orders placed for the dresses by the end of September will be with you by the end of October latest.